Hello, my friends. Today, I want to tell you the incredible story of Cleopatra, the last queen of it.
Dreams. Cleopatra was born into a royal family called the Ptolemaic dynasty. This family had ruled Egypt for many years, but they were not originally from Egypt. They came from Greece. Cleopatra's ancestor, Ptolemy I, was one of Alexander the Great's generals, and he became the king of Egypt after Alexander's death. So Cleopatra's family was both Greek and Egyptian. Cleopatra's father was King Ptolemy XII, and her mother might have been Cleopatra V. But historians are not completely sure about her mother's identity. Cleopatra grew up in a palace surrounded by luxury. She had servants, beautiful clothes, and the best education. But life in a royal family was not as easy as it seemed. There was always danger. Family members fought for power and sometimes even killed each other to become king or queen. From a very young age, Cleopatra learned that knowledge was power. While most women in her time were not educated, Cleopatra studied hard. She learned many languages, including Greek, Latin, Egyptian, and even Hebrew. It is said that she could speak at least 7 languages fluently. This was rare and made her very special. Cleopatra was also curious about everything. She studied science, math, literature, and politics. She wanted to be more than just a queen who wore a crown. She wanted to be a wise and powerful ruler. But she had another secret weapon: charm. Cleopatra was not only intelligent, she was also very confident. People said she had a beautiful voice that could capture anyone's heart. But her childhood was not all happy. Her father, King Ptolemy XII, was not a strong ruler. Many people in Egypt did not like him because they thought he was weak and spent too much money. Sometimes Cleopatra's family had to leave Egypt to stay safe. Cleopatra learned at a young age that being a ruler meant facing many enemies. When Cleopatra was around 14 years old, her life changed forever. Her mother disappeared. Some say she died, while others believe she was killed. Cleopatra's father became very sick, and soon Cleopatra would have to fight for the throne. She was still a teenager, but she was already preparing to become queen. What made Cleopatra different from other rulers was her deep love for Egypt. Even though she was part of a Greek family, she respected Egyptian traditions. She was the first Ptolemaic ruler to learn the Egyptian language, and she even presented herself as the goddess Isis, a powerful figure in Egyptian mythology. By the time Cleopatra was a young woman, she was ready to rule. But ruling Egypt would not be easy. She had enemies inside and outside her family. She knew she would have to be brave, clever, and strong. And so, the story of Cleopatra's rise to power begins. Chapter 2. Cleopatra becomes queen. Cleopatra was no ordinary young woman. From the moment she was born, her destiny was to rule, but becoming queen was not easy. It was a path full of danger, betrayal, and clever plans. Let me tell that how Cleopatra became the queen of Egypt. When Cleopatra was 18 years old, her father, King Ptolemy XII, passed away. In his will, he declared that Cleopatra would rule Egypt, but not alone. She had to share the throne with her younger brother, Ptolemy XIII, who was only 10 years old. Yes, in ancient Egypt it was common for siblings to rule together even if they were very young, but Cleopatra didn't want to share her power. She believed she was more capable and smarter than her brother. She had studied languages, history, and politics, while her brother was just a child with no experience. Cleopatra knew she had to take control if she wanted to protect Egypt and rule it the way it deserved. At first, Cleopatra tried to work with her brother, but soon their advisors started plotting against her. The advisors didn't like the idea of a strong and intelligent woman ruling Egypt. They wanted Ptolemy XIII to have all the power because he was easier to control. Cleopatra's life quickly became very dangerous. She was forced to leave the royal palace and flee to the desert. Imagine this: Cleopatra, the rightful queen, wandering in the hot, dry desert with only a few loyal followers. She had no home, no army, and no throne. But Cleopatra was not the kind of woman who gave up. While she was in exile, Cleopatra began to make a plan. She knew she couldn't take back her throne alone. She needed help, and she had to think fast. Luckily, at this time, a powerful Roman general named Julius Caesar arrived in Egypt. Caesar was one of the most famous and influential men in the world, and Cleopatra saw an opportunity. Cleopatra decided to meet Caesar, but she knew she had to do something dramatic to grab his attention. She couldn't just walk into the palace because her enemies would stop her. So she came up with a bold and clever idea. One night, Cleopatra had her loyal servant wrap her in a large carpet. Yes, a carpet. Then, the servant carried the carpet into Caesar's quarters as a gift. When the carpet was unrolled, Cleopatra appeared, looking stunning and full of confidence. Imagine Caesar's surprise when this beautiful, intelligent young woman emerged from the carpet. Cleopatra spoke to Caesar with charm and intelligence. She told him about her struggles, her love for Egypt, and her dreams of becoming a great queen. Caesar was impressed. He saw that Cleopatra was not just beautiful, she was also brilliant and ambitious. Caesar agreed to help Cleopatra regain her throne. Together, they planned a way to defeat Ptolemy XIII and his advisors. Cleopatra's enemies didn't stand a chance against the combined forces of Cleopatra and Caesar. After a fierce battle, Ptolemy XIII was defeated, and Cleopatra was restored as the Queen of Egypt. But Cleopatra wasn't just satisfied with regaining her throne. She wanted Egypt to become powerful and respected again. She started working closely with Caesar to strengthen her country. She introduced new policies, improved trade, and even built a strong relationship between Egypt and Rome. Chapter 3. Cleopatra and Julius Caesar. Cleopatra was now the Queen of Egypt, but her life was far from peaceful. She had won her throne back with the help of Julius Caesar, one of the most powerful men in Rome. But their story wasn't just about politics. It was also about love, ambition, and danger. After Cleopatra defeated her brother, Ptolemy XIII, with Caesar's help, she became the most powerful person in Egypt. But she didn't want to just rule Egypt. She wanted to make her country strong and respected across the world. She knew that having Caesar by her side could help her achieve her dreams. Cleopatra and Caesar spent a lot of time together after the battle. Cleopatra admired Caesar's strength, intelligence, and ability to lead armies. Caesar admired Cleopatra's beauty, charm, and clever mind. Even though Caesar was much older than Cleopatra, he was around 52 years old while Cleopatra was only 21, their connection was strong. Cleopatra invited Caesar to stay in Egypt, and he agreed. Together they explored the beautiful city of Alexandria, sailed along the Nile River, and talked about their plans for the future. Cleopatra showed Caesar the rich culture and history of Egypt, and Caesar was impressed. He saw that Egypt was not just a land of deserts and pyramids, it was a powerful and wealthy country with great potential. During this time, Cleopatra became pregnant. In 47 BCE, she gave birth to a son, whom she named Ptolemy Caesar, but people called him Caesarion, which means Little Caesar. Cleopatra believed that Caesarion would one day unite Egypt and Rome, creating a powerful empire. She wanted her son to be a symbol of strength and unity. But their happiness didn't last long. Cleopatra and Caesar's relationship caused a lot of problems. Many people in Rome didn't like the idea of Caesar being so close to a foreign queen. They thought Cleopatra was trying to take control of Rome through Caesar. Some even called her a dangerous temptress. Caesar decided to return to Rome, but he didn't leave Cleopatra behind. Instead, he invited her to come with him. Cleopatra, always bold and fearless, agreed. She traveled to Rome with Caesarion and a grand entourage. Imagine the scene. Cleopatra arriving in Rome with golden chariots, exotic animals, and beautiful Egyptian servants. She wanted to show the Romans the wealth and power of Egypt. In Rome, Cleopatra lived in a luxurious villa provided by Caesar. She attended